Every time money is collected at a school or school event, JCPS is required by a law called the Red Book to document that money collection using one of the forms in that law. The most commonly used form is called the multiple receipt form. A multiple receipt form can be used to collect fees, field trips, some fundraisers, and some sports or activity fees from students. This form is used in lieu of issuing individual receipts. You do not have to create these forms yourself. All forms required by the Red Book law can be located on the School Finance Resources website. At the beginning of the school year, the bookkeeper will start a new multiple receipt log. You may want to start the numbers with the current school year. For example, your log may start with 1819-001. However, you can also just begin with the number 1 as well. Once the log is ready to start for the new school year, multiple receipt forms can be issued by the bookkeeper as needed. Bookkeepers should not have the multiple receipt log and blank copies of multiple receipt forms available for the teacher or sponsor to sign out themselves. This would eliminate the ability to track the forms. Bookkeepers should also start a binder to store all completed forms. Schools use many multiple receipt forms every year. Before any multiple receipt forms can be issued, the bookkeeper must always number the form and log it on the multiple receipt log. The multiple receipt log is pretty self-explanatory. Simply type or write in the issue date and the next available multiple receipt number. Then, type or write the teacher, coach, or sponsor's name who is being issued the form for collection purposes. Finally, write in the activity or reason the funds are being collected. Bookkeepers should periodically check their multiple receipt log to make sure the teachers and sponsors are returning the multiple receipt forms. Oftentimes, a teacher or sponsor will say they threw the form away because they didn't collect any money or they were finished collecting. This situation could likely occur when collecting on dress down days. Some teachers may not have any students that participate. When a bookkeeper provides the teachers with the multiple receipt form, make sure they are reminded to return the form regardless of whether they collected money. Should a multiple receipt form become lost or destroyed, the teacher or sponsor should recreate the form by getting a substitute multiple receipt form with the same multiple receipt number written on it from the bookkeeper, and then have the applicable students sign the form. If this is not possible for some reason, the bookkeeper should create a substitute form with the same multiple receipt number, write "lost form" across the signature spaces, and have the teacher sign the form. If this occurs more than once, this may become a disciplinary matter in which the principal would need to get involved. When a multiple receipt form is returned with no money collected, simply write "no activity" across the form and place it in the multiple receipt binder. Be sure to record the unused multiple receipt forms into the multiple receipt log. During busy school days, teachers and sponsors can easily leave the form in a drawer, a car, or a cabinet and forget about them. The bookkeeper should remind school staff about their multiple receipt forms often, because the bookkeeper will ultimately be responsible for answering the auditor's questions. Teachers, coaches, and sponsors should try to get into a habit that will minimize the risk of forgetting to turn in money collected on a daily basis, such as keeping their multiple receipt form in the same locked desk drawer where they keep their keys or planner. The bookkeeper will prepare the multiple receipt form for the teacher or sponsor. The same information that the bookkeeper recorded on the multiple receipt log should be written or typed on the multiple receipt form. When issuing a multiple receipt form for the purpose of a fundraiser, be sure to include the approved issued fundraiser approval number under the reason for collection. This makes it easier when completing fundraiser summaries.
The teacher, sponsor, or student will write the dollar amount being paid, and the student or payer will sign the form whenever someone is making a payment. If students are under 6th grade or incapable of signing their name due to matters documented on an IEP, the teacher may write the student's name instead.
It may help to draw lines after the last student signs for that particular day's collection, which will ensure that the student enters their payment information in the correct column for the next day's collection. The teacher, coach, or sponsor must complete the cash, check, and total fields, record the collection date, sign the form, then bring the completed form to the bookkeeper with that day's collection to count the funds together with the bookkeeper. If the funds cannot be counted together with the bookkeeper will recount all money to ensure the checks and cash equal the teacher or sponsor's totals. Should the dollar totals not balance to the cash or check amounts written on the form, mark through the dollar amount, change the dollar amount to the correct amount, and contact the teacher or sponsor to have them initial the correction. It is imperative that money be turned in to the bookkeeper on the day it is collected or within the next business day of the collection. This is particularly important because the auditors test the date the money was collected versus the date the money was deposited at the bank. Failure to receipt collected funds and deposit within Red Book guidelines is a violation and will be an audit finding. If the bookkeeper is out of office, the money should be turned in to the bookkeeper's backup, usually another office clerk or secretary. Once the bookkeeper and teacher or sponsor total agrees, the bookkeeper will receipt the day's collection total from the multiple receipt form in EPS. After receipting into EPS, the bookkeeper will complete the multiple receipt form by writing the total amount of combined cash and check receipted in the EPS system, signing the form, and recording the EPS receipt number and date receipted into EPS. The bookkeeper will provide the signed EPS receipt to the teacher or sponsor. Since the multiple receipt form has space for more than one day's collection, the bookkeeper will give the multiple receipt form back to the teacher or sponsor for the next day's collection until the form is entirely used or the collection period ends. The multiple receipt form can be used for up to 5 collection days or 30 daily student signatures, whichever comes first. Should the teacher or sponsor need to collect for more than 30 students daily or 5 collection days, the bookkeeper will need to issue another multiple receipt form with a new multiple receipt number. When the collection process is completed, briefly review the form for completion, including signatures and dates. The bookkeeper should log the return date on the multiple receipt log and file the original form in the multiple receipt binder in the proper sequential order. As part of the month-end procedures, bookkeepers are required to distribute monthly EPS reconciliation reports to all sponsors. The sponsors should make sure that all of that month's deposit receipts are on their report. Also, sponsors should review any expenses on the report to make sure the expense relates to their activity. For example, if new shoulder pads were on the marching band's monthly report, that would be a problem. If anything is incorrect, discuss it with the bookkeeper. Mistakes happen. If the sponsor does not receive this monthly report, please ask the bookkeeper for one. If this occurs more than once, discuss the matter with your principal. This may become a disciplinary matter in which the principal would need to get involved. Here's a few helpful hints, tips, and reminders. Use colorful plastic envelopes when dispersing multiple receipt forms. They are virtually waterproof, they close tightly, they eliminate stapling and ripping staples out of an envelope, which can tear your multiple receipt form. They securely contain the form, as well as money and receipts, and the teacher or sponsor can see through them, which is helpful if collecting for numerous activity accounts. When dispersing a multiple receipt form to a teacher or sponsor, the bookkeeper should make a copy of the form and put it in sequential order in their multiple receipt form binder. It is extra backup to help prevent duplicating numbers. Also, print the teacher or sponsor's multiple receipt form on colored paper to easily identify your original form. Print a copy of the original form on white paper and file it in your multiple receipt form binder. By doing so, you can easily identify which teachers or sponsors have not turned in their forms. Don't forget that money should never be left unattended and should be turned in to the bookkeeper on the day it is collected. Never use whiteout on a multiple receipt form. This applies to the bookkeeper as well as the teacher or sponsor. Always mark through the error and make the correction, and then initial the change. Both the teacher or sponsor and the bookkeeper should review their multiple receipt forms to ensure the form is properly completed. Incomplete totals, signatures, collection date, purpose, and EPS receipt number fields are common findings reported by our auditors, so be sure to keep an eye out for these often overlooked areas. Thank you for going above and beyond for our students. If you have further questions, please contact the Accounting Services Department at extension 3146.